This Facebook ad was recently brought to my attention. It looked really familiar to me, probably because it was in fact stolen from one of my own videos. But not only did they steal my video, they put it into a commercial without my consent. But more importantly to me and to the people that I serve, this guy gave really bad advice.
If you'd like to ride a little longer with less pain, try this new wrist support. And it's especially helpful for those riders who suffer with arthritis, an injured wrist, or carpal tunnel.
He's recommending that you wear a splint when you ride your motorcycle, and that can be very dangerous, especially if it's done over a long period of time. I'm Deborah Quilter, and I've written 2 books about repetitive strain injury, and I have a YouTube channel devoted to helping people prevent and cope with repetitive strain injury, or RSI. Repetitive strain injury comes from overuse of the hand in awkward positions, and carpal tunnel syndrome is one form of repetitive strain injury. A couple of years ago, a motorcyclist asked me why his hands kept going numb when he was throttling his motorcycle. So I made a video about it explaining why this could happen. My friend and fellow YouTuber Daniel Battelle created a video of himself driving his motorcycle and throttling, shaking out his hands to demonstrate the numbness and tingling that can occur from using the throttle. That video became the second top performing video on my whole channel. And it helped a lot of people who ride motorcycles. But I would never recommend that you wear a splint when you're driving your motorcycle. Here's why. The carpal tunnel is a rigid bracelet made of tough ligament and bone. 9 tendons, blood vessels, and the all-important median nerve run through this narrow tunnel. Everything's fine if the wrist is held in a neutral position, but if you start making a lot of up and down movements in an extreme range of motion, the way you do when you throttle your motorcycle, it can irritate the lining of the tendons. This can lead to swelling. Because the carpal tunnel can't expand to accommodate this swelling, there's pressure on the median nerve. And that leads to the numbness and tingling associated with carpal tunnel syndrome. Throttle Tiger claims that their splint offers compression. Carpal tunnel syndrome is a nerve compression injury. Why would you want to further compress a nerve compression injury? It doesn't make sense. It will just make everything worse. Excessive immobilization such as splinting can lead to a lot of problems, including chronic pain, stiffness, muscle atrophy, and weakness. It can interfere with blood flow and impede the drainage of fluid that's crowding the carpal tunnel and pressing on the median nerve, leading to the numbness and tingling. The other thing that happens is that now your hands are forced to work against the splint, so you're actually doubling your effort because the splint is trying to hold you still, but you need to move further than the splint will allow. When that happens, you can experience problems in other joints, such as your elbow or shoulder, that are trying to compensate for the joint that can't move, the wrist. Furthermore, splints do not address the root cause of the problem. What led to the carpal tunnel syndrome to begin with? You need a thorough medical examination to find out. It could be many things. One of the risk factors is the up and down movement required to throttle your motorcycle. Carpal tunnel syndrome can also happen for other reasons, such as thyroid disease, Lyme disease, diabetes, vibration, and conditions that lead to fluid retention, such as pregnancy. And there can be even more serious complications. This is not a benign process. Carpal tunnel syndrome can be very debilitating. Even Throttle Tiger says so right on its website. It says, "This pain should not be ignored as it can escalate to chronic wrist discomfort and may even force you to stop riding altogether. But it can also cause other problems with activities of daily living, such as lifting and grasping ordinary objects." The bottom line is that splinting should be done only under the judicious care of a physician who understands the dangers of splinting and for a short term, and when to use it appropriately, for instance with a broken bone, where the downsides are overridden by the need for immobility. Usually this is done for a short period of time, and certainly not recommended for riding your motorcycle every single day. After watching this ad, I decided to purchase one of these splints so I could evaluate it. Then a funny thing happened. When I looked for the product online, I found the exact same photograph of that splint on Amazon, except it was $6.35 as opposed to the $34.99 that Throttle Tiger was charging on its website. Since they looked identical in the photos, I decided to order it from Amazon. When the splint arrived, I put it on and immediately felt constricted. It was even hard to move my thumb. If I were riding a motorcycle, I wouldn't be able to throttle without working against this splint because it constricted my movement. Plus, this splint claims to be one size fits all, but these are my hands compared to a man who's very tall and has very long fingers. Do you think this splint would be comfortable for him? Rather than relying on the word of someone who appears in an advertisement for a product, I would recommend seeking out a highly qualified physician and discussing ways to address carpal tunnel syndrome without unnecessary or inappropriate splinting. Now, some doctors recommend splints at night because sometimes people curl their fingers and bend their wrists when they're sleeping unconsciously. But splints are not meant to be worn while you're working or riding your motorcycle. And in fact, the value of splinting has been questioned in certain medical studies that I have seen recently. Excessive immobilization can lead to chronic pain, stiffness, muscle atrophy, and even more serious complications. Everyone who uses a splint should be carefully monitored to ensure proper recovery. So after having reviewed this product and evaluating the claims that were made on the advertisement and the product's website, I'm giving this product a thumbs down for relieving carpal tunnel syndrome, but I am giving the company a thumbs up for removing my video from their ad. I don't know whether they did that because I complained to Facebook or because Daniel Battelle sent a letter saying that if they didn't take it down immediately, they would be hearing from his lawyer. But whatever the reason, they did the right thing. So if you want to get more solid advice about preventing or coping with repetitive strain injury, watch the video that's coming up next or linked in the description below.